Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Funding is also provided by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Detroit Performs. I'm your host, DJ Oliver, and today I'm in Plymouth, taking in the Detroit Institute of Art's Inside Out Art Exhibition. This program brings high-quality reproductions of masterpieces from the DIA's collection to outdoor venues throughout Metro Detroit, like this one. This is Indian Summer by Jasper Francis Cropsey. Our first segment takes us to Wayne State University, where Detroit School of the Arts teacher Cecilia Sharp holds an annual camp for orchestral group Urban Stringz. The Urban String kids come together, and in just 2 weeks, they show just how hip and funky string instruments can be.
We're all working together just to be a better community, and we're using music to do that.
Without Urban Stringz and without Ms. Sharp, I really don't think I would be as far advanced in many aspects of my life.
Urban Stringz has been an awesome outlet for kids. We've had all sorts of kids in the camp from Detroit, Metro Detroit, tough areas, nicer areas. And one, it gives kids really an outlet to express themselves, to sink their attention into, to get away from their worries, but also learn how to deal with them.
I learned social skills, how to speak to people. I learned to put your ego aside. You need to put your ego down.
It actually brings out my passion for music while I'm here.
Detroit Public Schools, the music isn't really there right now, you know? So Urban Stringz is something where it's like, hey, we're over here and we're urban kids and we're playing all this cool music, you know? And it shows that classical instruments can be cool. They can be used for other things besides classical.
1, 2, swing it and swing. Urban Stringz started in 2007 with 8 students in the living room of our house with my mom cooking for them. And our first song that we played was SpongeBob SquarePants and Do Re Mi. Why I started it is because when I was teaching kids, and I had beginner high schoolers. There were like 35 kids in a classroom. 35 high schoolers that have never played a string instrument. Really? So you're like, do high schoolers want to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Mary Had a Little Lamb or DDAA? They don't want to play that. You have to connect to them. So I realized that in order for me to connect with them, for them to even come remotely close to playing this so-called boring instrument, I was going to have to give them music that they could relate to. And even though they're beginners, they still want to be relevant and current and play something that they feel good about. So we did that. Then I gave them music that they liked. And when they like the music, they take ownership for it. So I started the camp.
It's a lot more fun because you actually know the songs that you're playing, because we're playing Bruno Mars right now. We've played Beyonce in the past. We've played Lady Gaga. So it's nice to actually be able to relate to the music. You
know, you can feel it a lot more. It's a lot more feeling because it's a lot more current to you, you know? So with that music, you can still feel the vibe.
It's one thing to be classically trained, but it's another thing to have an edge on the competition and others your age when you can play jazz music or contemporary music. And also to learn how to play a certain song in 2 weeks that typically takes a whole school year kind of helps your development throughout the process. And there's not a lot of urban programs that teach string instruments because they're very expensive. And also, if you can't afford an instrument or whatnot, Ms. Sharp will help you and help you through this program and through this process. So I think it's also needed for those that may not have access to it.
In addition to the music part, I was noticing that kids needed more than music. They needed love, they needed attention, they needed food. They needed someone to listen to them, someone to say, hey, I really care. There you go. That's good.
You also learn things like putting yourself aside and working as a team. Because in order to get this music done in 2 weeks, you have to be able to listen to other people, both your age and older than you. You have to be able to take positive criticism.
But please get over your fear of shifting so that you can play it in tune, because once you do, you'll find that it's going to be easier to play. This is about getting out of your comfort zone so that you can do something better.
Miss Sharp is a great teacher. I've learned lots of stuff from her. She really gets it in your head for how she wants you to play it and how you're supposed to express yourself in a certain part.
That means that part went away. So it means you need to fill in the octave higher.
You can start in beginner with no knowledge, and you can work your way up to advanced. You know, you can do these amazing things. So it gives kids a smile on their face when they just started a week ago and then they're playing a song.
If you're in beginners, you're learning how to read and what a quarter note is and what a staff is. Intermediate, they're working on building on their foundation. And advanced, they're shifting, they're playing by ear, taking the music off the paper. So it's not just the musicality of it, but it's also the maturity that goes with being in each ensemble or each level. There's a certain maturity that comes along with it and awareness as a budding musician. We have Miss Julia Stapleton. She is a retired Detroit public school teacher, and she is the first person who put a cello in my hand. Bless her heart.
F sharp. E.
She's very patient. As she works with the beginners, she's tough, and she makes a miracle happen in 2 weeks.
E. F sharp really high. That's it.
Then I have Miss Natalie Frakes, who teaches intermediate. She is a dynamite teacher.
1, 2, 3, 4, up.
And then I also have Miss Ashley Nelson, who comes in and she does sectionals and she works with the students. She's a violinist.
Or you could do C sharp with your third finger and extend your fourth finger for D sharp.
This is an extremely intense camp of music. It's a lot of fun, but it's really intense because the expectations are high. At first, they're really eager because it is a song they know. I'll take my class, for example, Uptown Funk. They're like, yay, we're about to do Uptown Funk. And then they realize they can't play it. I mean, you can sing it, but you can't play it. And it takes them really developing other techniques or techniques they have and using it in a different way, because the classical techniques they learn, they use in this music, and then you build on that. Your theory of knowing what's a whole step and what's a half step in the theoretical point on paper is important, because then you apply it when you get ready to play.
When we're playing the Bruno Mars, we're doing it exactly how the song is played. So that's really fun, just hearing all the different parts and figuring out how we can bring everybody together.
The first day, it's like, oh my gosh, like, could we add an extra week, please? Because the kids are not ready.
It's really intense, and then it's almost like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna do it. But then the intensity turns into positive intensity, and then it begins to show through the music, and the second week it really blossoms.
When that final day comes, your parents are watching you, like, you know, they're proud of you, everything sounds great, like, it's a relief and it's a good feeling because you achieved your goal. And not only did you did, your whole orchestra did it, your whole class did it, you guys did it as a team.
It's real energetic. Kids working together, coming out on stage with the etiquette, the concert etiquette, the posture, the presentation, and then they're bringing style and funk to it too, not just the technique. So the parents are really excited, and I'm really proud of the students after 2 weeks because I know how much they've put into it. I know how much the teachers have put into it. The kids that go through Urban Stringz, I hope that, well, I know that they're developing. I know that this is having a huge impact on them. The music is just the vehicle to show that you can think outside the box. You can be yourself.
You can learn more about Urban Stringz as well as all the artists we feature on DetroitPerforms.org. Austen Brantley is a young sculpting talent who has taken the local and national art scene by storm over the last few years. Here's his story.
When Laura came in, I wanted to capture a certain depth that I think that she has as an actress. I picked a pose that was sort of sad and sort of depressed, even though my motto isn't. I picked that pose because I wanted to convey, just in my mind, I wanted to convey, like in my series, that all these pieces have in common is that they're sort of sad and isolated, and they're trying to understand why this is happening, why, and they're confused. These characters are confused because they're trying to know who they are, trying to get out of bad situations and live, explore, but they can't. I think of, like with the isolation and breaking out, I think a lot about Detroit because just in general, that's where we are. We're breaking out, we are coming out of our shells, our cocoons, and we are becoming culturally aware and very much expressive. And not just arts, but everything.
There's something about the figure that just we all can relate to, and it's so appealing. And to do it well is really, with expression, is really admirable, and it's a challenge. He's just such a young, he's so young. I think that's the thing that flabbergasts me. He's so young to be pulling this out and doing this. I mean, he's only 18, for Pete's sake. And he's got such skills. I mean, he's not perfect yet. None of us are, but still, what he is pulling out of the clay, different personalities, different emotions and expressions, that can only get better. It's only going to get better.
Before sculpting, I was in the athletics. I also played the alto sax and band and stuff like that. I was musical. I tried everything. I just wanted to find what I wanted to do, really. I just played with clay a lot when I was probably about 15 years old, and I got in a ceramics class, and I just liked playing with the clay. I didn't get the same satisfaction as making a pot as I did just making a face. There was this is so new, this type of satisfaction was so rare to me because I've always been a perfectionist, but I didn't know I could really sculpt. I never knew I could sculpt. It was like, I looked at sculptures before and I was like, how are those even made? And then I started doing it, and it's a completely weird experience, really.
I first met Austen when he stepped into my ceramics class one day. He popped his head in and kind of waited around till there was a break, and he came up to me and introduced himself, and he said he was working on some sculpture and he was wondering if I could give him some feedback on his sculpture. And he had 3 sculptures set up, and it really surprised me. It knocked me over, actually, because he is so young and his sculptures were so developed this is his first sculpture class, basically, as I understood it, and I was just in awe.
I think at first, I even thought it was sort of like a hobby, and then other people did, but I sort of really thought that it could really mean something different. I
feel that Austen has a really important role to play, and this was made clear to me when I went to the NCECA conference this year, which is the conference for ceramic education in the arts. And there's thousands of people there, and the keynote speaker is Theaster Gates, who is a well-known sculptor. And he had an inspiring talk where he spoke about how important the diversity is and how we all have this calling. I was just like, Austen, I know, I should bring Austen here. You know, we all have choices in life, and he has chosen the human figure and working with the human emotions. And I admire him for that, and it's a real gift. And yes, I think he has a role to play to all young people in this. When I'm looking for inspiration, I'm looking for something deeper, something emotional. I try and do the classic tradition, but also mix up my own sort of style into it.
Just I look online for source material, or if I see a face that I think is interesting, I'll grab that model, or I'll just draw that face, or I'll just imagine that face when I'm sculpting, and then I sort of put that into the clay. Not just making a sculpture or doing a portrait, but making a statement is one of the most important things to me. Just as people, we can find something that we really love. It's just the satisfaction of being able to display your thoughts in a three-dimensional form. It's just, it's really great that I can just sort of talk through the clay. I get to just put everything that's in my mind into that piece of clay. I completed this sculpture. It's called I Exist. It represents American slavery and just a human being feeling the need to display that he exists, that he's shouting out, he's reaching out to show that he is here, that he is a being too. Just the overall expression of it is refreshing to me, because it didn't even take me that long to sculpt it. The idea was so inspiring in my mind that it was so easy.
That to me exhibits this hunger that he has and this passion for his art and craft. He has visited any number of well-known artists locally. I know he just recently got back from Toledo visiting an artist.
I met a master sculptor. His name is Woodrow Nash, and the most memorable thing that he told me is that the clay will reveal itself to me, that I have to discover myself in the clay, I have to discover my own voice in the clay, and that I'm only limited by my own ability to create. And when I heard that, I just it's like, this is what I want to do, this is where I belong.
I love his pieces actually in the raw state. That's probably my favorite point, is as they are emerging out, there's something in that leaves, that's a mystery to it that you also wonder about. And I like that part of his work where he is putting expression in, but then at the same time, he's letting the clay show the natural physical properties of the clay.
I really believe in conquering your fears and also getting through obstacles. Just for every person, I think every person has it different, but I think every person is trying to get where they want to in life. And to be able to actually sculpt it out, like when I'm actually sculpting something, I'm sort of sculpting my life. I'm making it.
So how nice is it to cruise down the streets of downtown Plymouth and see a legendary painting from Van Gogh? What? Wow. Now let's check out some upcoming events happening in and around the D. Our next segment takes us to Cass Tech High School, where a group of students were inspired by the Heidelberg Project to create art of their own. Check it out.
We've always tried to be on the cutting edge of theater here at Cass, mainly because we're one of the few schools with a performing arts department.
I think that what's interesting about our director, Ms. McCormick, is that since she's been here, she's touched probably every musical that's out there that high schools are allowed to do, and even some that we aren't.
We've done so many things. I thought, what better story to tell than our own?
We started hearing about news in Detroit about the burning down of the Heidelberg projects, and it was like, why not tell the story that's going around us?
As we were sitting around talking about all of this, I just thought, oh, I'll show them these pictures, because I don't know how many of them were even aware of the Heidelberg project. But I thought it would just cause them to start thinking about things. I had no idea that it would affect them the way that it did.
We started breaking into groups, and we all picked a house. And then we picked a story to go with the house, like a family that lived there, and we had to choose who was going to live there and what they're going to go through.
I thought it's inspired by the Heidelberg project. Wouldn't it be cool if Tyree knew about this? And so I said to the kids, find a phone number. We just have to call. And the woman I was speaking to, Margaret Gray, said, that's wonderful, go for it. And I'm going to arrange for Tyree to meet with the kids and they can experience the Heidelberg project.
The Heidelberg project has always been a big thing, probably one of the many good things that Detroit has left. And so many of it was being burned down, tore down. And yet, Tyree Guyton, who created the Heidelberg project, he's still going. We see that Detroit is being burned down. It may be physically, maybe emotionally, mentally. Now we can work with Tyree in a way of our art to build it back up.
And to see him, you know, when we were touring, to me that was so profound.
You guys are doing what you're doing. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it.
Because he has taken such a loss on his art, but he's so determined and he believes in this city. He believes that there is a good to be had here and that something great can come from us.
The musical is called Headlines Up From the Ashes, The Experience.
Well, you only hear the bad headlines that's coming out of Detroit right now. That's how we got headlines, and we got the experience because we want this not to be a typical musical. We want the audience to experience something that they never encountered.
Everything is original and from the cast. The music, the choreography, the story, the characters, the story behind the houses.
This musical is going through the history of the city of Detroit and figuring out what went wrong and what has helped the city, and trying to look at those and look at that history and come up with what the city is today and trying to figure out how to get to a point of what we want it to be.
There's different stories being told in different ways, especially with our music choices. It's not just one genre. The way that the story is being told, verbally and physically, it's so different from so many other shows.
The plot of the musical is about a guy named Dustin who has lost hope. He is the epitome of Detroit now.
Just like Detroit going through wrong and right, he's battling between what's good and what's bad.
My character, Edward, he shows the good guy in Detroit. The good guy and wants better, but Dustin, he shows where Detroit is headed if we keep on acting like this.
Throughout the whole entire process, there are gods, time, love, soul, hope, and war. Throughout the play, the gods sort of mold themselves with the events that happen in the real world. If something tragic happens, the gods, they react to that all together.
We ended it off with somebody about to create a good process. We didn't end it off like the problem has been answered. We don't know the future, so we can't dictate if good is going to be at the end because we don't know. All we can do is, just like in the finale, say this is what we want in order for us to get out of the ashes that we are in. Even though, like on the poster, it doesn't say directed by Marilyn G. McCormick, I feel all of us did a little directing, but she was the guider, the top director.
What I want is this tempo.
She's like our outside eye looking in.
Come out. This is not a funeral dirge. We're not burying something at this point. We are raising something.
I would say the most challenging song in the show would have to be the finale number. We wanted it to be more like a chant. It wasn't a dragging ballad, or it wasn't, I'm happy because we are done fighting, because we're not done fighting. We are marching for the rising of our city.
One thing that we were discussing before we started creating the musical is how are people going to take it after sitting here for 2 hours and 3 acts? Will they walk away feeling like we changed their lives? And that's our main goal.
Ultimately, I want the audience to walk away from this experience knowing that we are one unit, we are connected.
I want people to know that you can fight, that something good happens here, and that we are the good that happens here.
I personally want them to walk away feeling like we can fill those empty lots, we can rebuild those houses, we can put back the Heidelberg Project and recognize the beauty that's in it and in Detroit.
I feel theater is positive to inspire someone to do that because it's real intimate and it's enclosed.
It brings people together in a way that it wouldn't normally happen.
Well, what I have taken away from the show is we are a lot stronger than we think we are, especially once we have other people that we know we can lean on. That's mainly what my ensemble has taught me. And the show itself, it showed me the beauty in Detroit and how wonderful we all are together, even though other people in other cities and other states, and they're all like looking down on us. I know that we have a lot of promise.
I want people to understand and realize that the youth aren't lost, that they have this ability to make changes, and they can follow through from the beginning to the end of something and do it well.
And that wraps it up for this edition of Detroit Performs. As always, for more arts and culture, head to DetroitPerforms.org, where you'll find featured videos, blogs, and information on upcoming arts events. Also, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'd like to thank the DIA's Inside Out Art Exhibition for bringing these masterpieces to different communities in Michigan, as well as the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex. Art is meant to be seen, shared, and loved, and this program allows for it perfectly. Until next Tuesday, get out there and show the world how Detroit performs, y'all. I'm DJ Oliver. Thanks for watching, guys.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Funding is also provided by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.